morning, good afternoon, good evening. Zimbabwe is a failed state. That, I think, is a settled point. The question is, how the hell are we going to get out of this mess? Well, we have to look at why we are a failed state. And in my view, the number one reason why we are a failed state is because we have failed to hold free, fair, and credible elections ever since the country's independence, and hence the reason why we've been stuck with this corrupt, incompetent, and tyrannical Zanu PF dictatorship for 45 years. And by God, we have suffered. In those 45 years, we cannot deny that we had many opportunities to end the Zanu PF dictatorship. So again, the logical question is, so what happened? Why did we fail to end the Zanu PF dictatorship in those 45 years if we had those many opportunities? Well, the best opportunity came during the 2008 to 2013 GNU. The government of national unity's primary purpose was to implement the democratic reforms to stop Zanu PF rigging the elections. We failed to implement even one reform because it turned out Morgan Tsvangirai and his MDC friends, who were tasked the responsibility to implement those reforms, turned out to be corrupt, incompetent, and utterly useless. Mugabe bribed them with the trappings of high office, and the rest is history, as one would say. Ever since the GNU debacle, the MDC CCC leaders, they've changed tune. They've told their followers that they can win rigged elections. In other words, we don't need to implement reforms, we can still win the elections. In 2018, Chamisa told his followers that MDC Alliance had stringent measures to stop Zanu PF rigging the elections. The people believed him. They participated in those elections, and Zanu PF blatantly rigged those elections. After the voting was done, Chamisa himself was the one leading those complaining that the elections were rigged. The very thing that he had said would not happen because he had implemented stringent measures. You'd think the nation had learned from that experience. No, no chance. 5 years down the line, 2023, Chamisa once again told his followers that he had plugged all the vote rigging loopholes. Hashtag God is in it. He even evoked the name of God. He was going to form the next cabinet because God's plan does not fail. Again, Zanu PF blatantly rigged those elections. and Chamisa had to admit that Zanu PF rigged those elections. The very thing again that he said would not happen. What is sickening about all this is that the people themselves are making the same mistake over and over again. You were warned you need to implement the democratic reforms to stop Zanu PF rigging the elections. All these meaningless stories from Chamisa that he has devised ways of winning rigged elections. These are just idiotic lies. And yet, again and again, the people have fallen for it. Since the 2023 elections, Chamisa resigned from his party and went on a sabbatical. But now it looks like he's back. And guess what? He's back on the campaign trail, telling his followers that he would win the 2028 elections, even though not even one token reform was implemented. Some things never change. Here he is in a recent video clip. The truth of the matter is, his followers have never understood what Chamisa and his MDC friends' number one task was. As much as people have tried to explain to them, the bottom line is many people, particularly the so-called Chamisa Chete Brigade out there, have no clue what the democratic reforms are, the democratic changes that the nation has been dying for all these years are, much less how to implement them. And so it is not surprising that those same people can never blame Chamisa and company for betraying them by failing to implement even one token reform when they had the golden opportunity to do so during the GNU. But ignorance comes at a price. The people have had the opportunity to learn by now what the democratic changes are. They haven't. And so it is easy for Chamisa to ignore what has happened in the past again and again. 2018, he told them that MDC Alliance had implemented stringent measures to stop Zanu PF rigging the elections. The people had no clue what he was talking about, but they believed him. And they participated in the flawed elections, gave Zanu PF legitimacy. They have suffered the consequences of that. Come 2023, he told them, I've plugged the vote rigging loopholes. They had no clue what he's talking about, but again, they believed him. And now, it is clear that they've believed him once again that he's going to win 2028 elections. We know not even one token reform has been implemented. And yet he says he's going to win the elections. This is just a nightmare, if you ask me. We have been over this so many times. It doesn't make any sense at all. History, he said, is important. And those who do not study history are doomed to repeat it. And as in this cartoon, yet those who do study history are doomed to stand by helpless while everyone else repeats it. There is no doubt that the nation has suffered greatly because we have failed to hold free, fair, and credible elections. There's no doubt about that. We really have paid a heavy price for that. But after 45 years of rigged elections, if we still failing to understand what constitutes free, fair, and credible elections and how to get out of this mess, one is going to start wondering whether we will ever get out of this mess, whether we are capable of learning from the past. Can't rule it out. We have been stuck in this rut, in this mess for 45 years. In this day and age, and we still don't know what constitutes free, fair, and credible elections, that is worrying indeed. I think we are not as helpless as maybe some people would want to believe. Because if we can educate these so-called Chamisa Chete Brigade members of the sheer folly of participating in these flawed elections only to give Zanu PF legitimacy and perpetuate the nation's suffering, we can get out of this hellhole. It is quite possible. It is within our reach. Yes, I agree that it's going to be a serious challenge trying to persuade some of these Chamisa Chete Brigade members that Chamisa is corrupt, incompetent, a liar, and a conman. But the truth is on our side. There is a mountain of evidence to show that Chamisa is indeed corrupt, incompetent, a liar, and a conman. We just need to bring it to the attention of these Chamisa Chete Brigade members and remind them that it is not only the rest of the nation that suffers. They too suffer. Zimbabwe is a failed state. Millions are living in abject poverty because we failed to hold free, fair, and credible elections. The Chamisa Chete Brigade members are part of the millions living in abject poverty. Chamisa and those around him are not suffering. Zanu PF has been very clever. They have allowed a few of the opposition leaders to win the gravy train seats. So they're benefiting from it. And that has enticed them to keep participating. The people have got to open their eyes and see the truth for themselves. Chamisa Chete members will participate in these flawed elections, not because they don't know that Zanu PF is rigging. They know that. Not because they don't know that by participating they are giving Zanu PF legitimacy. They know that. And not because they don't know that the consequences of participating and giving Zanu PF legitimacy is perpetuating the suffering of the millions of ordinary Zimbabweans. They know that too. But they also know that Mnangagwa is giving out a few gravy train seats to entice the opposition to keep participating. The question really is here whether we, the ordinary Zimbabweans, are finally smart enough to realize what is going on. That is what matters here. Are we smart enough to have learned from history to stop history repeating itself in 2028? It's a fight worth fighting. I hope you will be taking it up as well.